right now. I'm ready to go right now. I'm ready to go right now. I see you move, I'm checking your smile, working your back like it's going out of style. Shake just a little bit faster. Shake just a little now, girl. I'm dying to meet you, so let's mess around. Got an obsession with us getting down. Come just a little bit closer. I just need permission, so give me the green light. Give me just one night. I'm ready to go right now.
All right, Miles, give me the green light. I'm ready to go right now in hour two. Thank you, sir. Hour two of our program today. Two great conversations in this hour. We continue trying to squeeze an 80-pound show into a 45-pound bag. I don't often do 7 guests in one show, but today is that day. Hour one down, 2 more hours to go. On the B side of this hour, a new book called Illmatic Consequences, The Clapback to Opponents of Critical Race Theory. Love that book title. The two authors of that text will join us on the back side of this hour. We commenced this hour talking about preventable disease. We were just talking in the first hour with Paul Henderson about the deaths that we all saw take place in Maine. Robert Card II, who killed these 18 persons and injured more in Maine, found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, we're told, but not before he killed 18 people and injured others. And what we just discussed moments ago, in case you've just tuned in, is that those deaths were preventable. Imagine being the family member, a loved one of one of those 18 persons or the others who were injured, and you discover what we discovered in the last 24, 36 hours, that this shooter, Mr. Card, Robert Card, in trying to get a silencer for his weapon, admitted on a form, he told the truth, that he had mental health issues. He wrote that on the form, filled it out accurately, told the truth. Yes, I've had mental health issues. And yet he was able to get the equipment that he wanted to get. Then you discover that was 3 months ago, by the way, 3 months ago. Then you discover a few weeks ago that cops were called to his house because there were concerns that he was losing it and was going to go on a mass killing spree. They knew that 3 weeks ago. So imagine being the family member of a loved one of one of those persons deceased or maimed or injured in this shooting, and you learn that. Talk about preventable deaths. I want to talk now about preventable disease. The majority of heart disease cases are, in fact, preventable. I am pleased to be joined now by one of the nation's leading cardiologists, Dr. Kim A. Williams. He's the inaugural editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention. Dr. Williams, good to have you on this program today, sir. How are you today?
Doing good. But I really want to thank you for taking this on.
No,
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you on. We got a few minutes here to talk about, again, preventable deaths, whether it's by gunshot or whether it's by cardiovascular disease, heart disease. We got to do better at living better lives and living longer lives to the extent that we can. Tell me how you came to this subject matter. I note from reading your background, you were once a professional level tennis player and a coach, and then at some point you decided to choose the field of cardiology. Why and how?
Well, I tell you, my interest in medicine started really early. Unfortunately, I was the kid of a mother who smoked. I ended up with 3 different pneumonias. And by the time I had my 3rd pneumonia at age 11, I kind of knew what the deal was. I didn't get that penicillin, I wasn't going to get back to school. So I was admitted to a hospital on the south side of Chicago, your community inner city hospital, and there were issues of care. And so I made a vow to get out of that hospital and try to become a doctor on the south side of Chicago and be a pediatrician. Well, I got sidetracked with tennis because tennis has a lot of benefits in terms of academics. It makes you more thoughtful, it makes you strategic, and gives you some physical fitness. And if you happen to have skills in those areas, you can excel at tennis, and it makes you excel at everything else. So my tennis success and my academic success at University of Chicago sort of went hand in hand. and as I got better at tennis, it got to the point where I was winning low-level professional tennis tournaments. But when it got to the big one, you may know that the American Tennis Association was sort of the replacement for the USTA for blacks, because for a long time, until Althea Gibson, really, we really couldn't get in the USTA championships around the world. And it got to the point that, years ago, the American Tennis Association was formed so black people would have a place to play. The nice part was that after things got better, just like the American Medical Association let in blacks in 1964. Well, the USTA did it even before that. But to try to make up for it, they always would take the national champion of the American Tennis Association and put him in the tournament. So there I was in a qualifier for the U.S. Open, playing the number one seed and winning, and I hurt my back. And I was just wrestling the night before the semifinals. Am I really going to delay second year of medical school, or am I going to go on and play on the tour, or go on with my medical studies? So fortunately, that back injury stopped me from even considering it even further. I went back to medical school, and I played a few tournaments, but and some minor success, but really dedicated to healthcare.
Yep.
And what I found was that we have been it's a struggle. It wasn't pediatrics anymore. I got into cardiology mainly because I loved it when I got into medical school. But to answer your question, it also was a need. You grew up on the south side of Chicago. You realize that everybody's dying of heart attack. I had a stepfather who died of a stroke at age 29, uncontrolled hypertension. These cardiovascular risk factors are such a burden for us. And, it's not just the heart with the high blood pressure and stroke. It's kidney disease as well. And almost every one of us knows someone who has critical kidney disease, and they're on dialysis. And my actual biological father ended up dying right after dialysis session. Take it very personal that all of our cardiovascular and kidney risk factors need to be addressed. And we have the answer nowadays.
No, you assigned yourself to the need. I'm glad you did. Nothing against tennis. I love a good game of tennis, but you ain't saving no lives on a tennis court. And these days you are. When we come forward, you said something. That story you talk about your mother and about you getting pneumonia 3 times. I have to probe that. There's something there I want to ask you about your mother, and then we'll get straightforward into this conversation about preventable heart disease and your suggestion that we go to a plant-based diet. We'll talk about that. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfection like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450 mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with the CHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I'm here with Lisa Stevens, Senior Business Consultant with Chase for Business. Lisa, what's one tip you'd give to business owners here in the Crenshaw area?
I love that you asked that question. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I grew up in an area that's very similar to Crenshaw. So this is near and dear to my heart. And if I could only leave a business owner with just one, I would tell the business owner to identify their why. And I think that is so important because your why is going to be that strength on those days where you feel like you're struggling. Your why is going to be that stepping stone. Those days that you want to give up, your why is going to be the reason that you get back up.
And how would you advise business owners looking to acquire capital? What do they need to know before stepping inside the branch to ask for funding?
So 3 things. I do want to share this when it comes to the power of capital and just finding those resources. Understand that capital is a three-part of a business, right? It's not always about the monetary piece, but if you first put that intellectual, right, what do I need to know? That social, who I need to know, that will help you to then package for that monetary piece. So no matter who you're banking with, you should know your banker. Never walk into a bank and you're transactional only.
It's just like Lisa to drop gems. I'm Aisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
If you are a private individual or a small business owner who has had problems obtaining a business loan, credit card, or just even acquiring an apartment, please call Alliance Hillview LP for a free consultation at area code 510-459-6001. That's area code 510-459-6001. Remember, don't let your past determine your future.
Who do you trust to get at the truth?
Tavis Smiley.
That's who. The conversation continues right now.
He does indeed with our guest, Dr. Kim A. Williams, one of the nation's leading cardiologists. We're talking in a moment about his recommendation that you consider plant-based eating. We'll get straight to that in a moment. Let me ask right quick, though. You told the story about your mother. You grew up with a smoker in Chicago. And on 3 occasions, you find yourself as a child with pneumonia. At age 11, for the third time, you're in the hospital. Obviously, pneumonia kills, and I can only imagine that you loved your mother. But I wonder, as you look back on those scary times, whether or not you, in any way, trying to find the right word here, hold your mother accountable for that. Whether or not you had issues with your mother because of that. I understand that smoking is an addiction. I get that, so I'm not naive. And yet your mother could have killed you.
Very true. And, a lot of respiratory diseases in the pediatric population are due to parental habits. And so it turns out that after I went to medical school, my mom went to chiropractic school. Not everybody understands that chiropractors and physicians actually get the same first 2 years. So she learned all the stuff that I learned. And she came to me and was crying and apologized for all of the smoking-related pulmonary disease that I had. For everybody who's out there and they're smoking and they're struggling, and if you have family members, remember, it's not just first-hand smoke, you're smoking. It's second-hand smoke that's very damaging. And indeed, there's third-hand smoke. It's in the carpet. It's in the car, in the leather seats or the vinyl. And then people will actually react to that. And if you don't believe me, you can always just put in your search engine, third-hand smoke, what to do, and you'll see all kinds of respiratory illnesses and cancers. So really good idea to get away from it and not have it anywhere around you.
Yep. So one of the reasons I want to have you on is because you are becoming more and more vocal in your various roles, suggesting particularly to black folk that we consider a plant-based diet to improve our cardiovascular health. So with that, take it away. Tell me why.
So let me just start with a little bit more background.
Okay.
First of all, we have toxic levels of healthcare spending in this nation. It's 1/5 of our gross domestic product as a nation. And as it turns out that over 80% of those dollars are spent on diseases that are unnecessary. Now, I don't know how many, Chinese spy balloons or kids from the south side of Chicago who could be given, free education at major universities. We have things that we could and should be doing, rebuilding our infrastructure with our money. Instead, we're spending on healthcare issues that are generated by our food choices. So, it's really important to recognize that diabetes and obesity are at epidemic levels, and the consequences, heart attack, stroke, heart failure, death, are just overwhelming. It's human tragedies, it's families that are losing, and you're losing in two ways. If I choose to eat an American diet and I eat, fast food with high frequency and sugar sweetened beverages and everything that you see in a fast food commercial, there's actually literature against pretty much everything except for the lettuce and tomato on that double cheeseburger. Well, it turns out that that is a burden on me. It's a burden on society if I don't pass away early, but it's going to be a burden on my family as well. I mean, my kids would have to take off work and after I have the stroke, and wheel me around in a wheelchair, going to, appointments and to rehab. Why would we do this to ourselves and to our families? So health and wealth go together. People shouldn't be taking off work to deal with illnesses when they could be productive people in the society. And so I've, publicly said that, if you look at our healthcare financing, that if you're not doing a whole food plant-based diet, then you have to question, how much do you care about the country? How much do you care about your community, your family, and yourself?
That's a pretty strong indictment, though. That if you're not taking seriously a plant-based diet, then you don't really care. You want to unpack that a bit more for me?
Well, yeah. So we have a variety of diseases, and if we had to summarize it into one thing, it's the GI microbiome. People will say, "What in the world is this guy talking about?" It turns out when you're eating, decaying flesh, which is basically what people are eating, that you're getting some bacteria. It changes the microbiome, and everything that I'm saying is actually in peer-reviewed literature. It's in medical journals, but you could get it right off of the search engine or ChatGPT or whatever you want. You look up the microbiome and you see that it improves when you eat plants. So that gets rid of a bunch of, it feels funny talking about cardiac disease, and because it's stroke and Alzheimer's disease and dementia and Parkinson's disease. Those are some of the real big ones that change when you do a plant-based diet because you improve the microbiome. So the cardiac risk, though, which you asked me to talk about, it boils down to three things. Your cholesterol level, your inflammation level, and a compound discovered by the Cleveland Clinic called TMAO, trimethylamine N-oxide. The only thing that lowers all three of those is a whole food plant-based diet. And so that's what I would love to get to do it every day. I'm actually still here in my clinic. And the successes of people who change their diet, and my big job becomes how quickly can I get them off of medication because they're doing so well, and convincing everybody else to try it. And so I'm out there trying to get everyone to recognize that it is more than just health. It is recognize that it does affect the planet, and you can throw in animal cruelty if you want to, but the fact of the matter is a whole food plant-based diet is the best diet for human health. If we do that, particularly, and I don't want to leave out the kidney disease, because we are, as African Americans, we are 12% of the population and 35% of the dialysis patients. And if you look at the literature, you'll see a tight association between animal protein consumption and the development of chronic kidney disease. And the reverse is true as well. You take someone with kidney disease, you put them on a plant-based diet, and their kidney disease gets better, and you don't get that progression to dialysis that everyone's afraid of.
Yep. So I want to come right now inside your clinic. So I'm one of your patients, and you're trying to convince me to change my diet to a whole food plant-based diet. Tell me what our conversation is going to be about.
So we start with the risk factors where you are, and and if you look at the published guidelines from the American College of Cardiology, which I'm a co-author of, the hypertension guidelines and the primary prevention guidelines, the first thing that we talk about is changing the lifestyle, not smoking, making sure that you're exercising, making sure that you're doing a heart-healthy diet. Now, you can argue about whether or not fish is in there because going to fish actually does reduce your stroke rate, but unfortunately, it doesn't lower heart attacks as much, and it doesn't lower cardiac death as much. But if we make strides towards a whole food plant-based diet, fruits and vegetables, beans, grains, nuts, seeds, mushrooms, people will have such a dramatic improvement in their health that we don't have to worry as much about the rest of our prevention stuff, which is obesity and high cholesterol and high blood pressure. These are things that all of which everybody should measure, and they should get controlled. Now, but part of our issue is that we don't recognize all of our risk. And so that's one of the reasons here at University of Louisville, we do a lot of going into the community. I did it when I was at Rush University in Chicago as well. We set up a program where we go into everywhere where they'll have us, like Juneteenth celebration in a park, or the African American Male Walk we did recently. We go everywhere where people will be and say, hey, you want to get your cholesterol? A little simple finger stick will tell you exactly what your numbers are, and then we use a blood pressure cuff. You put those two things together and plug it into the risk calculator, which anybody can get. You can put in risk calculator from the American College of Cardiology. You can pull it down, and everybody should. Hey, and Uncle Joe, tell me your cholesterol. Tell me your blood pressure. Oh, you got a 17.6% 10-year risk of heart attack, stroke, or death. You need to see your doctor. So then we set them up for appointments here at U of L, and hopefully we're going to make some changes and make a difference.
Yeah. So if let me just run you through the ringer right quick. Watching my timer, we've got less than 5 minutes left. So if you're trying to convince me and other black folk and others, of course, but talking about black folk primarily, trying to get us to consider a whole food, plant-based diet. What I want to walk through breakfast, lunch, and dinner based on what you're suggesting. What am I eating for breakfast every day?
So that is the funniest thing that people. Let me just say, you're asking the most important question.
Yeah.
How do you change people's habits?
Exactly.
But let me tell you, one of the gurus, Caldwell Esselstyn, of plant-based nutrition. He's got a big, his kids, everybody's a big vegan guru.
Right.
And I heard him say, he was lecturing right before me one time. I heard him say that there are 29,000 vegetable plant-based options out there. I tried looking it up. I could only find 21,000. So I can tell you that this morning I would have I typically would have a whole grain toast with almond butter, but I could go through really thousands and thousands of plant-based options if you do beans, grains, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, and mushrooms.
Okay, and lunch? What do you eat for lunch every day?
So it's even hard to say because what I do is I eat just about anything. So my favorites at lunchtime would be salads and a sandwich. If I'm going to eat, I love the vegan chicken substitutes, but it has to fit the requirements that it's not a lot of sodium and no saturated fat. And so some of the plant-based processed stuff is big on saturated fat and sodiums, and those are to be avoided. But the rest of them are really good. Soy meat is really good for you. It can actually make all of the everything from menopause to prostate disease, improve so many things, including blood pressure and stopping kidney disease. So it's hard to pick out any one thing because I eat so many different things.
And what's dinner look like for you, typically?
So same answer. That is just about anything. I typically would do a huge salad and anything that is whole food plant based. So I actually, for people who want specific remedies or recipes that are remedies, food is medicine. I would refer you to the Association of Black Cardiologists. We're coming up on 50 years of that organization. A couple of years ago, we put out a cookbook. It's called the Heart and Soul Cookbook. And that is free. It's online. If you just put in ABC for Association of Black Cardiologists into your search engine with Heart and Soul Cookbook, you'll get like 22 recipes. And that's a really good answer.
Yeah. No, I asked that question. I appreciate that, and for those who want to learn more, they can find that Heart and Soul Cookbook. I asked that question because, at the end of the day, we can have these conversations, but we got to be practical about these things.
Yep, absolutely.
And you're trying to convince black folk to change their diet. They want to know, okay, what am I eating? It's a basic fundamental question. What am I eating for breakfast on this new diet? What am I eating for lunch? What am I eating for dinner? So they're pretty basic fundamental questions. You can't convince black folk to change nothing if they don't know what they're going to be eating.
That's exactly right. And I do get that question all the time. And, the best thing I can do is the 2 T's. Spend my time with them, let them understand the importance of it, and then the tools. And so if I can mention another, I don't usually mention commercial products, and sure. I'm pretty sure this one is sold, but it's something that I think is so good that everybody should know about it. It's Mayor Adams in New York. He tells the story. He wrote a book. It's called Healthy at Last, and it's replete with recipes, whole food, plant-based recipes. So when people are looking for stuff to eat, they could just, rather than taking, some rogue cardiologist that spends so much time working and not cooking, you could just take a good recipe book like the ABC or the Healthy at Last. And you will see a massive number of recipes. And then you can start branching out, because there's no way that a book or a pamphlet, a 22-page pamphlet, I should say, can actually get everything out of that 21,000 beans, grains, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, and mushrooms.
Yep, fair enough. I thank you for your time today and for the tools you've offered us. Speaking of time and tools, and a lot of people, I'm seeing this everywhere I go, hearing it everywhere I go. A lot of folk, particularly given what's happening, what the numbers are saying about black folk in particular, and our cardiovascular health. A lot of people choosing a plant-based diet. And so I want to talk about it and offer that to our audience. Dr. Williams, good to have you on the program, sir. All the best to you. Thank you for your work and witness, and thank you for this conversation.
Fantastic. Let's do it again.
Thank you, sir. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a Monday. I'm Mike Moore, and now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. House Speaker Mike Johnson says a subpoena for the president's son, Hunter Biden, is overdue. Speaking on Fox News yesterday, Johnson said that desperate times call for desperate measures, and the House will be moving forward very aggressively. Republicans are accusing President Biden of benefiting financially from his son's overseas business dealings. Sophia Crowder is the new Miss Black Kentucky for 2024. The Women's Club of Louisville held the event Sunday, where 3 Louisville natives swept titles. Alina Gordon took the Miss Black Teen crown, while Sierra Johnson won for Miss Division. Crowder will represent the state in the Miss Black USA pageant next year. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Reports now of a brush fire in Hawthorne, 105 eastbound before Prairie Avenue. That's along the right shoulder. You're seeing traffic stopped coming off the 405. And 105 east at Imperial Highway, we have a traffic break being run with all lanes stopped. 405 north at Sherman Way, all lanes still blocked, investigating an accident, slowing from the 101.
Get big savings and big rewards during Provember. Save $80 on the DeWalt 20-volt 2-tool combo kit and earn 3 times the bonus points. While supplies last, selection varies by location. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 11/22, subject to change.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Want to save big on custom faux wood blinds, shutters, cellular shades, and more? Shop Blindster today and save up to 50% over comparable blinds from brick-and-mortar stores. Get custom blinds at low prices and free shipping at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. All 4 of LA's major pro teams were in action Sunday. The Clippers and Chargers get a win. The Rams and Lakers came up short. The Lakers lost by 5 in overtime in Sacramento. The loss spoiled a monster game from Anthony Davis, 30 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocked shots, and 2 steals. LeBron had 27 but committed 8 turnovers. The Clippers beat San Antonio by 40 at Crypto.com, 21 points from Kawhi Leonard, 19 each from Paul George and Russell Westbrook. The Chargers beat Chicago to improve to 3-4, 2 interceptions by the Chargers defense. The Rams lost by 23 at Dallas. They fall to 3-5. Quarterback Matthew Stafford may have suffered a broken right thumb. The Rams hope to know more about the extent of his injury later today. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, children are the future. Here, tobacco companies are committed to higher education, offering scholarships to students who submit essays about the benefits of vaping. The tobacco industry even sponsors summer camps for kids. Don't worry, the tobacco-sponsored programs have been linked to leaving your kids more interested in smoking. In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, the world's deadliest industry is your child's friend.
See reality at undo.org.
The Green Foundation, key health influencer, empowering our Black communities through action. The Green Foundation advocates for affordable health care, accessibility, and knows the importance of culturally relatable health care. Regardless of income, we believe it is a right for optimum health. The Green Foundation has been at the forefront for 25 years, dedicated solely to promoting prevention through early detection, annual screenings, and nutrition. We know you because we are you. Our hand-holding approach supports you and your family to receive your right to be treated fairly and receiving quality healthcare services. We want you and your family to know COVID-19 was devastating to our families and to our wallet. We can build back better by understanding prevention, wearing your mask, washing your hands, social distancing, and understanding the impact of long COVID. Get the care you deserve. Take advantage of your privileges. Contact us, info@thegreenfoundation.net. info@thegreenfoundation.net.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You are indeed, and I'm glad about it. For some, critical race theory has become, CRT as we call it, has become a scapegoat for attempts to censor, silence, and erase all conversation, all discussion of American racism and its ongoing legacy. Editors Walter Greason and Danian Jerry have assembled a broad range of scholars and artists to refute these assaults on CRT. They join us now to talk about their book, Illmatic Consequences, the clapback to opponents of critical race theory. Walter, good to have you on. How are you today, sir?
Pleasure to be here, man. How are you?
I'm doing the best I can. If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. Danian, how are you today, sir?
I'm well. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you both on. Love the title, as I said earlier in today's show, Illmatic Consequences, the clapback to opponents of critical race theory. Who wants to tell me about how the title came to be? I love it.
I'll start there. The piece that jumped off basically was at a conference on Afrofuturism at Carnegie Hall, and we had pieces of the manuscript that we put together, but we wanted to put at the center the fact that art overcomes a lot of the political debate. And so we had Stacey Robinson's art about Nas and Illmatic, but we also wanted to then combine that with the actual political organizing of the consequences. How do we stop the effort at misrepresenting critical race theory and really build a stronger, better society coming forward?
And when you say Illmatic Consequences, by that you mean exactly what?
So Illmatic Consequences Illmatic is cool, automatically cool, the things that come as a product of how we live, and that actually the world will then follow. The consequences are then what we respond to the white nationalism with. How do we actually build stronger communities? So the building of stronger communities as an automatic product of our choices especially through a lens of hip hop and black studies, is automatically cool. So the automatically cool effects of coming back and standing up together as a community.
Mm-hmm. And at this very moment, why do we think that the response to what we've been getting, that the response is a clapback?
Well, there are several reasons. I would say that this is a clapback because what we have seen is a concerted effort to not only to silence progressive voices, but really an effort to change the narrative of American history, of history in the United States, in the classroom. Also, there's this idea where they began saying, okay, well, we want to protect our high school classrooms. We want to protect our middle school classrooms, elementary as well. But as time went on, what we saw an effort to control curriculum in college level classrooms. And we've seen that from legislation in Florida, from legislation in where the state that I'm from, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas. So there was a great danger that was posed, in my opinion, to not only students, but also activists and progressives in general. So the clapback or the response was needed.
Yeah. Dr. Greason, give me your sense, and obviously it's in the book and people can read it for themselves, of course, but I'm trying to get a sense of what writ large black scholars feel about this attack on CRT.
Yeah, the conversation has been swift and ongoing. We're organizing in defense of the right to learn. And so we look at folks like Kimberly Crenshaw, dear colleague of mine here in Minnesota, Uhuru Williams, Khalil Gibran Muhammad at Harvard's Kennedy School. We are all coming together and spending time every week, every month, talking with educators at all levels about defending the right to learn and actually saying that the emphasis on black scholarship, the emphasis on black academic excellence is the way that we don't just free black young people in black neighborhoods and black schools, but we actually free all schools, not just in the United States, around the world.
Yeah.
That we live up to the message and the promise of not just training, but education when we embrace the kinds of knowledge, ideas, methods that come out of black history, black literature, black politics, the study of black people over the last century.
What does it say, Dr. Greason, about this place called America, to use your phrase, that one has to defend, that one has to engage in a fight, that one has to write a book called Illmatic Consequences and clap back on the opponents of CRT? What does all that say about the fact that we have to defend the right to learn?
We've come a long way. And so I talk often about the fact 100 years ago, most people thought black history was fiction. They thought it was fantasy. And we had to emerge and come to a place where we documented the history of the African diaspora so that now these things can even be brought forward and shared through the public sphere. But now we're at the place where we can actually project forward through films like The Black Panther and other Afrofuturist projects like Lovecraft Country or HBO's Watchmen, the way that black voices and black presence actually creates the world that we've always struggled for since Dr. Martin Luther King proposed the idea of a beloved community. And so we've been on this trajectory some time, and that's what actually provokes a lot of this reaction from the right wing, is that they're seeing that their world is dying. And from my perspective, this is their last gasp. This is their last chance to try and defend the remnants of Jim Crow.
Danny and Jerry, same question to you, because I'm still troubled by that. Dr. Greason's response, notwithstanding a great response, but I'm still troubled by this notion that in this moment, in late modernity, that we find ourselves in 2023 having to defend the right to learn. There are many things in this country I can certainly submit to that we need to defend. But something is wrong, it seems to me, when you have to defend your right just to learn.
Well, you see, there's power in controlling the narrative, right? So what we have to look at is the fact that the history of the United States is problematic indeed, right? But we have certain factions, certain conservative viewpoints that they don't want us learning, and they don't want us to really dissect history as it is. They want to present this sort of alternate version of history, and really the purpose of it pretty much is to enrich themselves and also to rationalize the reasons for enriching themselves and to rationalize the oppression and to say that, okay, people in impoverished communities are supposed to be there. So that's why you get this attack on children in the classrooms. You get this attack on really progressive expression, and especially progressive expression from African Americans.
Yep. I was in conversation with a friend of mine last night, which I want to come to when we come forward. We were talking about a very different subject, but the point of the conversation was that things just don't happen. There are powers, there are principalities, there are movements. There's always a backstory. Things just don't happen. I say that because when we come forward, I want to ask our guest, Dr. Walter Greason and Danian Jerry, how CRT became the target. It clearly has become a target of the rabid right in this country, and in this text, you get some sense of that. As a matter of fact, there's a great preface to the book that sort of lays out a brief history of this attack on CRT. And I think it'd be instructive and perhaps even informative to understand how CRT became the favorite target of the right in this country. We'll do that and a great deal more talking about their new book, Illmatic Consequences, the clapback to opponents of critical race theory. You're listening to this conversation right now, courtesy of Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
I'm MC Light for Hip Hop Heritage, celebrating 50 years of hip hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. Wow. Reflecting on my life in hip hop, first off, as one of the early female MCs, I knew I had to be twice as nice as the male rappers out. Flow, style, voice, conviction. Lyrically, I had to double down on everything I delivered if I was going to get my respect. And I'm from Brooklyn, so you best believe I was going to take it. Hip-hop is everything. It's not just music, it's culture, it's fashion, it's the way you move, it's swag, it's hip-hop heritage, brought to you by Cadillac.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Do you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare?
If so, the new LA Care plan called Medicare Plus can help you get the most out of your health plan for $0.
LA Care provides personalized service to Angelinos like us.
Plus, it gives us access to doctors and specialists across Los Angeles County.
For zero cost, we get access to full benefits.
From vision coverage,
in-home support services,
to prescription drug coverage,
and a quarterly over-the-counter allowance.
Plus personal equipment,
meal programs,
a gym membership,
and so much more.
For more than 25 years,
LA Care has provided Angelinos with access to quality health care at an affordable cost.
For our families,
our seniors,
our community,
it's a plus.
It's a plus
for all of us.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Dr. Walter Greason and Danian Jerry about their new book, Illmatic Consequences, the clapback to opponents of critical race theory. Dr. Greason, again, some of this is in the text, in that preface and beyond, but what do we know about why and how and I'm talking now politically, I'm trying to get us in a political frame, not an academic frame, but politically, why did CRT become the target, and frankly, an effective target, at least to date, of the rabid right in this country?
Absolutely, Tavis. And just one real quick note. My last name is Grayson, Greason.
Oh, it's pronounced Grayson.
I know it looks like Grayson.
My apologies.
Yes,
My
sir.
apologies. Yeah.
All good, all good. So, no, what you're really getting at is what happened in 2020 is that over the course of that year, during the pandemic, as the nation responded to the killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, we saw a massive coming together, especially among young people, but really all aspects of society, to stand up and say, we've had enough. Racism must be eradicated from our society. And the consensus that had turned against conservative perspectives that actually defended the remnants of Jim Crow, they began by the end of that year, and especially in the wake of the defeat in November of 2020, to say, how do we rebuild? How do we push back against this emerging progressive coalition? And so by the start of 2021, shortly after the events of January 6th, you saw the emergence on Fox News of Tucker Carlson taking on this tone of condemning all forms of racial justice. And Christopher Rufo came into play after doing work in San Francisco to disrupt their school district, to then make this a national playbook, to take it to Virginia, to take it to Florida, and to get people like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys to step up, and ultimately this group called the Moms for Liberty, to come in and be, threatening, violent, intimidating influences at the local level to attempt to then censor books and get rid of the kinds of ideas that had supported the national movement to end racism and to stop police violence. So that's why politically we see this movement on critical race theory take shape in 2021, is because it was the effectiveness of Christopher Rufo in mobilizing grassroots conservatives to seize control of local councils and local school boards. And then that blew up into what we see now is like the DeSantis presidential campaign, the work of Greg Abbott in Texas, things happening in Virginia and Arkansas to ban books. These efforts are all built brick by brick to go and kind of disenfranchise African Americans, immigrants, and women in a coordinated way to support this larger agenda of Christian nationalism.
So that's the answer to how CRT became the target of the conservative right in this country. When we come forward, I'm going to ask Danny and Jerry why he thinks that target has been so effective. They've used this remarkably well as a divisive tool in our politics. So we now know the how. Now I want to know the why it's been so effective. We're talking with Dr. Walter Grayson and Danny and Jerry about their book, Irmatic Consequences, the clapback to opponents of critical race theory. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Hello?
Man, where are you? I thought you were coming.
I can't. I'm in bed with the flu.
The flu? Whoa. Grandma's about to crowd surf. Man, I'll call you back.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is safe, effective, and you can get it at the same time as your COVID-19 vaccine. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, in downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
All right, Danny and Jerry, your co-author, Dr. Walter Grayson, told us how CRT became a favorite target of the right. Tell me, why do you think it's been so effective politically?
Because the proponents of the so-called pushback against CRT, which we have in quotes on the cover of our book, because they're not really pushing back against CRT, right? They were able to mobilize intense fear, right, and growing frustration, like from not only conservative bases, but I would also say like middle class bases as well, in terms of like there was this white fear that was going around, and this fear that comes from progressive elements getting together. Pretty much, you had riots all over the country after the George Floyd incident, right? So that was this intense fear, intense anger that was able to take shape, right, in the pushback against CRT. Mm-hmm. And I will also say this: they were able to mobilize media outlets. This pushback against critical race theory, quote unquote, it was very well funded as well. Also, even from the very beginning, right after Christopher Rufo went on Tucker Carlson Tonight, Donald Trump wrote an executive order that banned diversity training in federal workplaces. Yep. So that was all. They were looking for something. They were looking for an umbrella term that they could put all the things that they didn't like up under. So that's why. You sort
of just answered the question I want to ask right quick. Just watching my time. Got a couple minutes left here. You sort of just answered it, but I want to just put a finer point on it. To your brilliant point, on the cover of the book, which the audience can't see, it's Radiomatic Consequences, the clapback to opponents of critical race theory. The critical race theory is in quotes, as Danny and Jerry said a moment ago, and his point was it's in quotes because that's not really what they're after. So let me just ask you point blank, if that's not really what they're after, what is the end and aim then of using this faux attack on CRT?
As I said before, from my point of view, the main goal is, number one, to control the narrative of not only United States history, but to be quite transparent, the way that the way that racism functions on a daily, pervasive level in all of our lives. They kind of want to cover that up. It's interesting that they say things like "stop woke." You know, they really don't want people paying attention to what's going on, right? So there's this thing to really kind of solidify their power base. Yeah. And that's kind of like the end goal. Yep.
Dr. Grayson, I'll give you the last word. Can the clapback, this text and beyond for that matter, can the clapback at this moment be successful, or in this political season that we find ourselves in, has that train already left the station?
No, this is a crucial time. We have an opportunity that our parents and grandparents never had before us. that if we're standing up now and organizing in our communities, building with our churches and our libraries, our community centers, using this text, not just in Black households, but in all households, to actually advocate for the kinds of changes and resources we need in our communities, we can take this forward where we're going to have more clean water, more clean air. We'll be better able to pursue economic justice, even reparative justice in some places. And so we're going to move forward in this coming year with enormous stakes in this electoral season, and we need to press on the people running for all offices to say, are they divisive? Are they feeding into these misrepresentations, this deception, this propaganda? Or are they willing to work with people, all people from wherever they come from, to build a stronger system, to build a stronger set of communities across the nation? Here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, we did this work this year. We built this coalition, and we've implemented over 40 pieces of legislation to advance the quality of life for everyone in the state of Minnesota. And I think this is possible everywhere.
No, Minneapolis in many ways has been ground zero for the last few years. The editors of this book are Walter Grayson, Ph.D., and Danian Darrell Jerry, MFA. The book is called Ilmatic Consequences, the Clapback to Opponents of Critical Race Theory. Glad to have you both on. Congrats on the book. All the best to you. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Good to have you on. When we come forward in our final hour today, I'm anxious to have this conversation. I've been hearing about this for some years now. The earliest known novel written by an African-American woman was sort of suspect, but no more. It's been confirmed, and we'll talk about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a Monday. Johnson said that desperate times call for